worked for them really well versus Simplicity, which is more so a draft that lets them manipulate the battleground a lot more. We are headed to Towers of Doom. This has been a Team Freedom favorite for a long time. Towers of Doom, Sky Temple was another one, so we know that they're at least keeping consistent with Towers.
And this was a map that Gale struggled on against Simplicity the other day. Simplicity dominated on this map. So I think it's going to be more global focus. Maybe the Dahaka, maybe the Falstad, maybe both for these teams. I got a feeling we won't see the Zeratul this go around, maybe a little bit different drafts. We haven't seen any Tracer yet here in North America. We saw some pretty good plays out of it in EU earlier. There's a guy over there on Leftovers that I was impressed. Even in the loss, I was like, dude's hanging in there. We haven't seen it yet in North America. Maybe we'll get it here from Big E.
Yeah, the Tracer pairing with Malfurion has been what we've been seeing in Europe, correct?
Yeah, it seems to be. We actually saw, I think that was the game they had Tassadar, actually. That was the first time I think we've seen the Tracer Tassadar, and I think that was the one, but it has been traditionally with the Malfurion as of late because he's able to spread that regrowth and keep those HOTS up over there, HOTS and HOTS.
And Nature's Cure has been working out pretty well for Malfurion players. Seeing that it's not the true cleanse, but it does allow you to activate and remove the stuns, roots, and slows from everyone who has the regrowth, and it's been coming in handy for Malfurion players, which is cool to see considering that in the time where cleanse was removed from him, he sort of had one rework-ish, and then now back into this rework, he's finding his place in the meta. Towers of Doom is game 2, Team Freedom leading the series 1-0, as Gale Force says, we're done with this Shimada brother.
I can't blame them one bit. Will we see the other band here? I think you have to consider the ETC. They end up going to Haka, letting through potentially Genji. Maybe we see a Genji Lucio. Maybe we see ETC here. Fury, known for being the ETC monster, but do they have other priorities in mind with Genji being let through?
Yeah, just the fact that you see these seconds ticking down now shows that Gale Force probably were not expecting that Dahaka ban there, thinking that it would still be Genji. When we talk about the Genji bans, it's almost exclusively second ban Genjis in North America, with the exception of just 2 games, and now this one being the 3rd. So that's enough to throw off Gale Force at the very start of this draft, so they're just gonna stop, take a second, make sure they understand what exactly Team Freedom is wanting and why they let that through.
And I'm looking at tweets from Fury. I'm remembering this very vividly in our mind. He's commenting on letting through ETC Lucio and picking up something else. They have to decide, do they go ETC Lucio, potentially giving up Genji? I got a feeling Team Freedom likely will be looking at that ETC Lucio. Actually, wait a minute.
Lucio. All right.
Wait 1 minute.
The Abathur deny from double Genji. But how fast they picked those two knew that they had a setup. If Genji is picked, we're getting Abathur Lucio, but it leaves ETC up for Fury.
ETC Greymane Genji is an impressive combo to get in your first 3 picks of the draft. You have great frontline control, you have great defensive structure, you have great dive. There's a lot to like here about Gale Force's draft.
Yeah, it's such a cool draft that we're seeing unfold, guys. The deny of Abathur, leaving through Genji, knowing it would likely be picked up, immediately taking Lucio, yes, but Abathur from that, and then the counter deny saying, well, you can't have Greymane Abathur, that's still pretty scary too, so they take the Greymane from that. Which makes me think that it's very likely that Gale Force wants to ban Arthas now, knowing that he is another really good Abathur target and he's the counter to Greymane, but maybe there's something else that they're equally scared of. You know, Abathur has been known to clone a Jaina now and again, so is that worthy of a ban?
And when we look at the structure of the way that the drafts went last year, Nazma's had, I think, about 7 games, according to my notes, had 7 games on Abathur last year. He's been the melee flex player. He might just flex over there, give you that double range style play, and then play that Abathur for his team. I think that is definitely something to consider. That's why the Leo hover here, maybe they know something from scrims. Maybe he's not playing that anymore.
That's an old BlizzCon special from Team Freedom. The Leoric Abathur on Towers of Doom. They had
it with a Murden too, right?
Yeah, and they beat Fnatic.
That's
the game they took off from Fnatic on Towers of Doom.
You could never die. Like,
yeah.
And if you did die with Leo, it's no big deal.
It's enough to take it out. This might be my favorite draft of this weekend as it's going down. It's just pretty cool.
So what's your Abathur clone? I mean, you mentioned the Jaina, but what else do we have here?
Double Arthas on the front line.
Arthas, I just wonder, is Nasmus playing Abathur? Have they changed up some stuff going into this year? Again, he was their Abathur player last year. He's more of the melee off-tank role now, but I think if they do go double backline, he can easily just play that Abathur and not skip a beat with this team. While Lucio drops the beat as well.
There's also an idea of double melee assassin. There's still a lot of open heroes to pair with that Abathur. But it
definitely not Illidan, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
There's no way you pick Illidan into this comp.
It does sort of fall into who can play what and what's going to work, especially earlier on into a team that has role swaps. Double Tychus has been done before.
The Anubarak pickup, the Cocoon onto a Dragon Blade Genji is good. Now, with that being said, percentage-based damage obviously does well. Doesn't matter if you have armor or not, can rip through those health pools. But does that warrant maybe an Uther pickup here? If they do have Uther, now do you worry about some type of counterplay with a pick on that last slot for Freedom? Uther would give you that protection to make sure that you can't get Cocoon. You can get value out of that Dragon Blade, because as it stands, that Cocoon is going to be there for every single Dragon Blade and neutralize a lot of what Genji does. They don't have fast auto attacks between Greymane and ETC to pop that quickly. And so whoever's going to be stuck in there could be stuck in there for the duration of, almost the full duration of it.
Really cool to see Zagrug returning to Anubarak too. He's been played more in Europe than he has in North America so far this weekend, but I knew I could count on Zagrug to bring him back in. Malthael for the setup, that's a lot of damage, and then the final choice of Uther.
Yeah, I like it. I wonder, I don't feel that you can go... Lunara just seems like too much of a risk here. You've already got Tychus on that backline. He gets that armor when he's in Odin, so he can withstand some of the dive that could potentially be coming in there. Do they need somebody else on the front line like that, Arthas? Somebody that can give you that additional lockdown and help give you that control to allow Tychus to work with the Abathur? But then you said double Tychus is a thing, but is it enough of a thing?
Right. Yeah, that was way back. 2 BlizzCons ago, played by one of the Chinese teams. They busted out, probably E-Star, a double Tychus setup. So it's been a hot minute, is what I'm saying, since we've seen that.
They've got some decisions to make here. We'll see what they can go with. I've got an idea. We're gonna see if it comes through.
I still think Arthas. Zeratul.
Well, oh, you thought you could play it? Watch me play it.
Fun. Fun draft.
Fun draft to say the least. I mean, one team is saying, well, look, I can bust out some Zeratul. I'm cool with this. It didn't go well. The other team's like, all right, look, I'm going to show you how it's done.
And is this Nasmus Zeratul?
Yeah. I think it will be.
Yeah.
He's pretty stellar.
A Yoda playing Abathur? Nope, Nasmus is playing Abathur. I cheated.
Oh, you're like, I always wonder, like, how do you know who's playing it before we go? There's a screen.
There's a screen right here too.
There's a huge glare for me. It's a weird angle when you're this height.
Hashtag tall person problems. There you go. Is this what it feels like to be a normal height?
I don't know, my legs are already shaking.
When people don't.
By the way, Gilly's on a box.
Yeah, I'm standing on something.
Looking at screens, standing on boxes. I'm just over here, like, I guess I get no help, no assistance.
Let's get into the game. I'm sorry, Jay Howe, but let's just do it anyway. We're going to the game. Game 2 with Team Freedom currently up. Let's see if with their Zeratul Abathur, they can make it a swift 2-0.
See, when we transition to the game, the lights go down, I can see things.
Lutano Zeratul.
Is it Lutano?
That's
interesting.
Cool. Tychus played by Yoda, can't talk. And then Nasmus back on Abathur.
Yeah, and you know, I wondered about that in the draft on whether that would actually be a thing since he was the Abathur player last year, but he's been really heavy on the melee coming into the season and obviously through the first game. Ends up on the Abathur after all, so...
Well, you know, if he clones Zeratul, he's going to be a Zeratul player.
That is accurate. Very accurate, Gilly.
Thank you.
How you like this Anubarak with these globe changes?
Yeah,
Regen Master, a little bit easier to achieve over the duration of a game.
He's going to be working on stacking up those globes. So too will Zeratul and ETC. So a lot of globing happening around the map for the two teams. Set up for Gale Force. Multiple people in the middle, seeing if they can get a power slide on someone. But other than that, just sending Aka face down to the bottom. He will do his best with those minions. Freedom's gonna go in for the gank on Fury.
Going for the gank, but also up at the top, Fury's like, man, I gotta get out of here, guys. Yoda not able to confirm the kill. The other thing that we're seeing, again, we saw it yesterday, Gilly, with the Zeratul into an Uther. We saw Divine Storm. We also saw the auto attack build yesterday on Uther. So you get the cooldown reduction on that hammer, get that stun locked down, deal with that diving Zeratul. We could potentially see another Divine Storm here.
You could. You give up Divine Shield for Malthael, for Greymane, for Genji Dive, for a Divine Mosh. There's a lot of things that would, there's a lot of people who would be sad not to have a Divine Shield, but maybe it's a situation of everybody wanting Divine Shield, so nobody gets Divine Shield.
Is that how you share?
Yes.
By not sharing?
I think I read that once somewhere, maybe.
Just like we read about the cow gets the bird.
Yeah.
You know, it's sometimes there are fairy tales in life. We'll see who gets the fairy tale here with the Divine Shield or not. Either way, pretty even so far. Both teams prioritizing the bottom sappers. Duly noted, of course, that will be a high priority. Gale Force had a priority towards the top lane in their game the other day, and I think that strategy really hurt them as the game progressed. Lutano, of course, taking a bit of damage. But I think they've learned that lesson a bit, Gilly. They're prioritizing the bot lane this go-round.
Yeah, I wondered if we would see Swift Strike in from Biggie. Maybe not having it up, maybe just not quite confident he would be able to get that. Either way, still sends back Lutano, which is time where they can wreak havoc in that top lane. Send Genji down. Should be noted that in having Abathur on Towers of Doom, we'll have to see if he wants to get Mule at 7. The North American strategy in the past has been to take bell towers away from your opponents and then heal them back up continuously with Mule, causing your opponents to take far longer to take those back for themselves, giving you more time to go around on the map, pick up sapper camps, get other bell towers, or if he's going to continue on with more of the hat build that we're currently seeing.
Yeah, the hat build, for sure. The other thing that we're seeing, normally for dive-heavy, aggressive teams, we'll see Bed of Barbs to get that slowdown to try and deal with the pressure from a dive-heavy composition. Instead, we're seeing the Carapace build, and you get the extra movement speed when you use that. That's more of a defensive structure. I don't think that he's using that to go in. So that's a different and very interesting pickup for me, given the amount of pressure that they're going to be feeling from this Gale Force draft.
Yeah, Zugrug had a couple of change-ups, I think, on the last game too, build-wise. So showing us some Zugrug additions to builds. With this first altar spawn, Team Freedom get one of the 3, but they lose their Zeratul.
Oh, Biggie. He's like...
Oh.
Hey.
He's gone.
So there's a part, like if you're going against an Abathur, especially in the pro scene, you know there's going to be mines everywhere. You're like, look, I could walk through here. Wait a minute. It's like, you could be surrounded by mines. I better just hearth and spot and try my chances here. Biggie, you saw him like click once. He's like, actually, you know what? I'm just going to do it right here. Let's hope I live.
Probably dead otherwise. Gale Force gets the first 2 out of the 3 altars in the first phase. It's important that they do that. They are playing against the Abathur team. We'll start to ramp up later on, trying to do their best to get that lead and then maintain that lead to get a victory later.
Gilly,
Sapper camp focus again for the team.
When you're playing with Lucio, do you ever get in the rhythm? Oh, wait. No. In the rhythm.
Yeah.
Tychus.
Yeah. I get it. Hey, man.
All right, we got the dive in. Zugrug trying to go, but Fury's got the counter engage there. He gets the knockback. They get the kill. That's going to be one dead Lucio, and that is what makes Fury so deadly. He understands what he can do to save his team and then set up a kill just moments later. Very well done with that counter aggression from Gale Force. We've got another slide.
It's not just the Lucio kill. Tychus is going to fall too. Team Freedom staying out even without their support. And Gale Force will punish them for that just in the nick of time for altars activating in 10 seconds. Tychus will just now be getting back on the field and starting to run back in. So what can Team Freedom do from that? They're falling behind about a level. Yes, you expect to be behind when you are the Abathur team, but Gale Force doing what they need to keep that lead going.
It's amazing how much teams will prioritize keeping your structures alive on this map, so much so that Mule being picked picked up by Abathur. Don't see that a lot, but it has made its way in the past. Keeping that, more bell towers you have, the less damage you take.
Echo pedal for ETC. So we can try to make sure that he is taking out more of the waves, keeping those pushed. Gale Force Esports just about to hit heroic abilities. Team Freedom falling pretty behind in this early game. Looking at what you have for interrupts, there's a fair amount, especially having an Anubarak from Freedom. And then we've had the discussion about Odin versus Grenade, but Grenade is there for Tychus too, and then Lucio Boops. So we might see a stage dive from Fury here. But Mosh Pit's also kind of hard to pass up sometimes. No, he's going to get the stage dive. And Divine Shield. No D-Storm this time to handle the Zeratul.
Malthael holding on to his. I don't see last rights coming in professional play, but you never know, I guess. Cursed Bullet in response to Zugrug, putting a little bit of harassment there.
Now with so many damage dealers from Gale Force who would like that Divine Shield, I think it's very likely that we see Greymane going into that Cursed Bullet as more of just the setup kill, and then you have the Tormented Souls for the setup damage there too, and then Genji can be the primary cleanup crew. If Greymane feels like he can dark fight in and get the kill from that, he can. But a lot more focus on the communication really needs to be on point from Gale Force in team fights to make sure that the right person is getting that Divine Shield.
When you think about the response with Sound Barrier, it's generally the best counter towards Tormented Souls.
Yep.
Also one of the best counters towards Dragon Blade. So how that stacks up against both, maybe simultaneously, maybe staggered for Gale Force. They have the Cocoon as a response to potentially one of those. They've got good answers if you're on the side of Team Freedom. Odin is out. Team Freedom looking for a fight.
The secondary Tychus going in, zoning away a lot of Gale Force Esports. And then the sieging of Yoda, too, with the Odin. Michael Udall sustaining a lot of damage. And the setup is so good, even though Zeratul goes down, that Team Freedom can claim that altar. Problem is that the bell tower being picked up by Gale Force Esports in the bottom means that it was a fewer amount of shots, but at least Team Freedom are doing their best, doing what they need to do to hang in the game.
They're hanging in so far. Speaking of hanging in, Nasmus is down here. Udall, well, I don't think he wants to get Abathur twice, but he's in a bad spot. He's going to have to disengage. Does make it out just before that grenade keeps him peeled off there.
The rest of Gale Force are starting to rotate into this too. They want to protect this bell tower, not allow it to go back over to Team Freedom. It's a hard-fought, hard-earned bell tower, and because of that mule threat from Abathur 2, they really don't want to have to give it over until they absolutely have to. It also gives time for Malthael to get the sappers in the top and start working on a setup for a future bell tower for them. So if they do lose this bottom one, they can rotate someone else somewhere else and keep the structure advantage in their favor. And that does push back Abathur and what he would like to be doing in this game quite a bit.
It's also a tricky call if you're Gale Force, because you want to defend this, you want to have control, but you can't commit too many resources to it, because if you overcommit to it, Abathur gets double lane value, while you're probably going to be isolated in the top and bottom, and you're going to miss out in the long run. So you have to be a little bit careful to how much you can commit. As you can see there, the sappers were picked up, stolen there by Team Freedom, just walk in and grab those, because they recognize that Gale Force can't commit that heavily just yet.
Double altar in top. This might be the point where Team Freedom can take back the altar in the bottom, but having the sappers in the bottom and the altars in the top, it's a tricky position for Freedom to be in. Currently at 24 to the 33 core health, as Gale Force keeps a lot of their members here in the bottom. The Cocoon goes out. Beacon in danger as the Swift Strike comes in, and Biggie hoping that he can turn it back around and take a kill for a kill, but just in the nick of time, Zeratul escapes.
Everything to survive here. They're still holding, and I think that this is a good call for them to just trade off. I'm pretty sure that Genji's being delayed out by Abathur mines right now. That's why we haven't seen it channeled over. There it goes. It finally gets out. Eventually you run out of charges. He didn't go the cooldown at level 4. So you hold them there for at least a bit. But I think this is good. I think that's a good trade for them. You win out. It's 5-3 instead of 4-4, but you maintain control of this. And with Zeratul and Abathur, you don't necessarily have the tools to just walk right in and dive under this with minions to clear them and then to dive under. They don't have that within them right now. So this is Freedom just being handcuffed to this bottom lane.
Yeah, it's an excellent job by Gale Force doing that while I have Malthael on the top, being as safe as he can. He did get ganked once. So you may see that be a bit safer, and then Genji to soak in the mid, keeping up with the Abathur soak while holding onto the bell tower. And the sprays that were going down like old Terran versus Terran, just trying to claim the territory. Dodging the Singularity Spike, big impact, escapes.
Well, I think they're going for a gank up top on Malthael. B-Kid has got to be aware of this. They're coming in. He's going to try and get the juke. He gets it onto Collusion, gives himself that ability. But there's the stage dive. Tormented Souls are out as well. Dragonblade instantly gets cocooned, Gilly. And a nice disengage, but Fury goes over looking for more.
Yeah, it took quite a while to get big impact out of the cocoon. It was a good target from that because Malthael, he put a lot of poison damage on it, but of course it was just taking down. And that forces out two really big team fight abilities. Stage dive too from Gale Force Esports with just a single cocoon and a gank, but there is the ultimate evolution.
Udall being flanked upon. He bit off a little bit more than he can chew. He's trying to get there. Akabace does have the D-shield if needed. There it is. The D-shield is out, keeping him alive. They're trying to turn the fight. The sappers are there as well. That was a risky play for Udall to be that far forward, trying to make way for that. The sound barrier on the backside keeping people alive. This fight is on all fronts.
Yeah, that Divine Shield was so important because it stopped from the burrow charge so that Michael Udall could continue the retreat. And big impact using the chaos from that, hoping that he could get a kill, at least forces out the other side's big supporting heroic ability. Altars once again going out 27-9. Gale Force Esports continuing to command this game.
We see now ETC has moved up to the top, no longer having B-Kid up there. Stage dive now off cooldown. We'll look, see if they try and re-engage. The ultimate evolution, I believe, okay, it's back. Actually, it's down. I don't know, it's back and forth there. The timer should be down. 10 seconds away. You know, that timer just keeps confusing. I actually don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, I know, it did that to me too earlier in the game, but it's almost back. Stage dive is up. Gale Force has just been doing such a good job of keeping all of the sapper camps that they can. They're using Malthael on the top, that being falling victim to several of the ganks. As you said, switching Fury up to there since he has the global. Malthael still is being pressured by Zeratul wherever Team Freedom can find him. But he's staying safe, gets the safe sapper camp from their side too, and this, yet again, is keeping Team Freedom held down, chained to this bottom lane.
They just don't have enough to deal with it. Abathur and Zeratul just aren't enough. Tychus's wave clear isn't bad, but he can't be in the right position to get the right type of clear that you would see. If you're in a solo 1v1, Tychus actually has really good wave clear. I mean, you're talking very few abilities used to clear almost an entire wave. In this situation, when you have the threat of other people diving on you, it's a lot scarier. And this is one of the main reasons why you hold this bottom lane so heavily, Gilly, because if it's one of the bottom two spots or both the bottom spots, you control the exit points. And right now, they have nowhere to go.
Goodbye, Anubarak. That means no cocoon to stop what's about to go down from Gale Force Esports. Genji with the Divine Shield even going into the death zone to see if he could secure a third kill for the team. Gale Force Esports setting up for 5 more shots on the core of Team Freedom, putting it down to lethal range with a boss. That's annoying. That's really annoying.
You just need somebody, so if there's an Abathur on the other team, you just bring a friend along, have them clear that for you.
This has been such a great plan for Gale Force Esports to hold on to that bottom. There's just not quite the same level of double soak, hard push hero that Team Freedom has that can at least do something in another lane. They have Zeratul, Lutano doing his best to push the waves, but Gale Force has been so diligent with their ETC and the Malthael to make sure that it never really does too much damage to their lane.
This is what you call checkmate in a lot of games. So what they're going to have to do is take this back instantly, but you get the sappers which pressure bottom, and they're going to have to run up. Normally, if that bell tower is a bit healthier, you just send those down and you go get boss and end the game. And the hardest part is that wasn't there. Team Freedom recognized that. Not quite checkmate. They had check, didn't get checkmate because that bell tower was still a little bit health, or just had very little health, and they were able to clear that up.
Yeah, the problem is that the next altar phase is going to be down below the tunnel, and that's still fairly far away enough that it's going to be a problem for Team Freedom. However, Gale Force Esports tries to set up from that. They have Greymane who can do really fast damage to the boss. It's all about how Gale Force wants to set up for that next phase.
I'm wondering if we might, let's see, if they can get another round of minions in here, they might try and collapse on that. But we've got our 30-second spawn. Team Freedom has a lot of catching up to do. Despite the big lead, there's always a way back in Towers of Doom, but there are a lot of steps to complete that for Gale Force. It's simple as getting in. I mean, they can get 20 eventually, Gilly, and just D-shield a target and get that channel in. So Team Freedom has to be very aggressive for a very long period of time to try and stagger these deaths out against Gale Force, else they're just going to get choked out eventually by that D shield.
Gale Force is choosing to stay together. Michael Udall does take some damage. B-Kid's looking for his opening, throw out his Death Shroud, and go to town with the Tormented Souls. This area damage is pretty good. Stage Dive's gonna come in. The Cocoon goes down on Malthael just as the Stage Dive started, so it's up to Fury to try to take that down as he takes damage from the Tychus. With the Greymane though, and Zagrug there, big impact comes in, Greymane has fallen, but Gale Force Esports still trying to use what is left to them to get kills, just not quite happening. They lose Malthael too. They finally bring down Zeratul, but Uther will fall. It's a 3-for-1 in favor of Freedom.
And that's what they needed. The only problem is they're gonna need it for the next several minutes because post level 20, you can go the Divine Shield upgrade. I'd like to see Akaface, when he gets to that point, hold that talent. It needs to be a situational thing. If you find yourself in a double altar phase, go over there. You have to channel it for a second and then cast the D shield. So the timing is very important to make sure that doesn't get interrupted because you get that extra duration on it, but it's not quite the full channel. It's almost the full channel. So unless something else happens, he needs to hold on to it. Maybe he needs to be able to come back. But I think he really should hold that, make it a situational pick, and try and close it out that way.
Team Freedom moves up to take the boss. They no longer have to worry about that from Gale Force Esports, especially with the next altar phase, there being 2 of them in the mid and bottom. They also stole the sappers away, so just getting every single way that they can ensure that Gale Force Esports doesn't come back or get a better presence back into the lanes. They've gotten an opportunity, and they're doing their best to take advantage of that.
They're falling back their hearthing. They're making sure that they don't lose that bottom bell tower. Gilly, we can see on the mini-map, the next is going to be double altar phase. This is a spot where Gale Force, if they do it right, it's something that it comes up every now and again. It's not something you practice a lot because how often is it like, all right, we just need to practice having a D shield at level 20, making sure that we get the full 4-second value out of it because it's a 5-second channel type deal. This is that moment where it's should be easy on paper to execute, but we've seen it not go well in the past. Not necessarily with Gale Force, but in general.
Well, here we go for that. Sappers will push this bottom in, letting Team Freedom have control of those rotations between the 2 altars.
You can actually see the ping right there on Uther. I imagine that's Freedom saying, look, we can't let this one player, a stage dive up on the top.
So that Zeratul goes in for the bottom. Sound barrier is being used to let Team Freedom stay alive through the Tormented Souls. Uther uses the Divine Shield on himself with Cocoon off to the side, and Zeratul and Genji still in the bottom, duking it out over that altar. Fury busts Michael Udall out of the Cocoon. Gale Force is pretty low in this fight. Neither of the altars have been able to be claimed by either of the teams as both get their 20s.
Yeah, that was a misclick. They were stacked so hard, they were not able to get the D-Shield onto that Malthael. He ended up surviving anyways. Akaface ended up going the redemption there. This is a bad spot. Gale Force, they cannot afford to continue to lose these fights, Gilly.
Yeah, Lutano, though, is in trouble. Big Impact and Lutano are both really low as Fury goes in, hoping that he can get the final kill, and he does. He takes out Zeratul. And they're continuing their fight. Zagrug, everybody from Team Freedom just hoping to stop the channel. They have to stop the channel, or they die trying. And unfortunately for them, it's going to be the latter.
Yeah, that's a great fight there. Gale Force, they found there's a path of least resistance, and then there's a team fight. And they ended up getting the team fight. It came to them. They made the play. They made the pickup. They made sure to get everything done that needed to be done. They clutched themselves out of victory and tied the series up 1-1.
Gale Force gets a win on Towers of Doom. They had control of it the entire game, sort of righting the mistakes of what happened versus Simplicity in their first series on Friday. And it ties up the series between Team Freedom and Gale Force Esports. We kind of thought it might go this way between these teams. Granted, we heard that Team Freedom from Tempo Storm was up in the top ranks along with Team 12 and Tempo Storm, but Gale Force is fighting back.
They're fighting back. Again, the level 20 there, debatable, sure. They ended up winning the team fight, so it looks correct, but there are different ways to approach that. They just chose that one, it worked. And again, they tie the series up, which is a bigger deal, and if Tempo sees Freedom this high and Gale Force comes out with a victory, that's a big statement in opening week to come out 2-0 against this type of competition.
Yeah, it's a really important statement weekend for all of the teams, and it's important for us to be able to figure out where exactly the power levels lie between all these teams. And we have a lot more to determine between these two teams in this series as well as the next one. We're heading to a break. After the break, Game 3 of this series continues.